The stars stretched like diamond dust across the viewport of the Aegis as Captain Mira Solari gazed into the void. 200 light-years from Earth, orbiting the neutral research station Gaia 9, the starship maintained its vigilant watch over this sector of space. Humanity's reputation as the galaxy's peacemakers had been hard-won over centuries of diplomatic service, and Mira embodied that ideal more than most. "Captain," Lieutenant Jonas Wu's voice broke through her contemplation. "Incoming transmission from Gaia 9. Priority 1. Mira nodded, her tall frame straightening as she turned from the viewport. "Put it through to the main screen, Lieutenant." The bridge crew paused in their duties as the screen flickered to life, revealing the weathered face of Administrator Loren, head of Gaia 9. Even before he spoke, Mira could read the distress in his eyes. "Captain Solari," he began, voice tight with restraint. "We've received a distress call from Thera Nuaith mining colony. There's been a massacre." Mira felt the temperature on the bridge drop several degrees. "Survivors?" "Few." Those who managed to send the distress call described the attackers as... Lauren hesitated, consulting a datapad. "Moving with uncanny coordination and ferocity, as if awakened by wrath." He looked up, confusion evident. Their words, not mine. Commander Raoul Kendrick, the ship's security advisor, stepped forward. "Pirates? Rival mining corporations?" "Unknown," Lauren replied. "But the survivors' accounts are disturbing. The attackers appeared human, but fought with a savagery that witnesses claim was inhuman." Mira's brow furrowed. "Transmit all data immediately. We'll set course for Thera 9. As Lauren's image faded, the bridge erupted into controlled activity. Mira turned to her senior staff. "Jonas, I want everything we have on Thera 9. Mining outputs, personnel records, recent communications. Raoul, ready a security team for potential rescue operations, but keep weapons at minimum deterrent capacity." "Captain," Raoul began, his voice lowered, "given the nature of the attack..." "I understand your concern, Commander." Mira cut him off gently but firmly. "But we represent the peacemakers. We don't escalate unless absolutely necessary." Raoul's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Understood, Captain." "And have Dr. Alara Voss meet us in the briefing room. I want her insight on these witness accounts." As the crew dispersed to their duties, Mira remained at the viewport for one last moment. Something about this situation felt different from the usual border disputes or pirate raids. A cold finger of dread traced her spine as she recalled the phrase, "awakened by wrath." The Aegis broke orbit from Gaia 9, its engines pulsing blue against the darkness as it accelerated toward Thera 9. In the briefing room, Mira studied the holographic display of the mining colony, a cluster of domed structures built into the side of a rocky planetoid, rich in rare elements. "Thera 9 houses approximately 5,000 colonists," Jonas explained, manipulating the hologram to zoom in on specific sectors. "Primarily miners, engineers, and their families. They export neutrinium and other rare elements used in starship construction." Dr. Alara Voss, the ship's xenopsychologist, studied the colony layout with clinical detachment. Tall and reserved, with silver-streaked dark hair, she had spent decades studying the psychological patterns of various species. "The attack focused on the central administrative hub," she noted, pointing to a heavily damaged section. "That suggests either strategic planning or instinctive targeting of leadership." "The distress call mentioned at least 300 casualties," Raoul added grimly. "With many more injured. Whoever, or whatever, did this was thorough and brutal." Mira paced the length of the table. "Command has ordered us to negotiate safe passage for a relief convoy that's being dispatched from Gaia 9. Our primary mission is humanitarian aid and investigation." "Investigation?" Jonas asked. "Yes. There's concern at Fleet Command that this could be the beginning of something larger." Mira's expression darkened. The attacker's description doesn't match any known hostile faction in this sector. Alara tapped her datapad. I've analyzed the witness testimonies. The language is interesting, almost mythological. References to battle fury and blood rage. One survivor claimed the attackers moved like ancient warriors awakened from stone. Superstitious nonsense, Raoul dismissed. People see what fear tells them to see. Perhaps, Alara replied, unperturbed. But shared delusions across multiple witnesses are rare. I'd like permission to examine survivors directly. Mira nodded. Granted, Jonas. You'll coordinate with Gaia 9 on the relief convoy. Raoul, prepare security protocols. But remember, we're there to help and learn, not escalate. As they left the briefing room, Raoul lingered behind. Captain, a word? Mira gestured for him to continue. I respect our mandate as peacemakers, he said carefully. But whatever hit Thera 9 wasn't interested in negotiation. If they strike again while we're there, then we'll protect the survivors, Mira assured him. But violence is always our last resort. Raoul, that's what separates us from them. He nodded, though the tension in his shoulders remained. I hope that distinction matters to whoever did this. The journey to Thera 9 took 16 hours, during which Mira ordered the crew to rest in shifts. She herself found sleep elusive, haunted by the fragmented imagery from the distress call, the blood-spattered corridors, the wild-eyed survivor clutching at the camera, whispering about the awakening before transmission cut. When they arrived, the reality was worse than the transmissions had conveyed. The Aegis established orbit around the planetoid, sensors immediately cataloging the destruction below. Entire sections of the colony lay in ruins, environmental systems struggling to maintain atmosphere integrity in damaged sectors. Life signs? Mira asked, voice tight. Approximately 3,000 still registering, Jonas reported, face pale as he studied his console. Concentrated in the residential sectors and emergency shelters. Any sign of the attackers? Negative, Captain. Whatever did this is gone. Mira nodded grimly. Dr. Voss, Commander Kendrick, you're with me. Lieutenant Wu, you have the bridge. The shuttle descent to Thera 9 was tense and silent. Through the viewport, they watched the scarred landscape of the colony grow larger, twisted metal, and shattered dome sections reflecting the harsh light of the system's distant sun. They landed in a relatively intact docking bay, where they were met by a haggard-looking woman who introduced herself as Acting Administrator Serrano. Blood stained her jumpsuit, and her eyes held the 1,000-yard stare of someone who had witnessed horror beyond comprehension. Thank you for coming, she said mechanically. Medical supplies are our priority. We've converted the mess hall into a triage center. As they walked through the colony corridors, the devastation became personal. Bloodstains on walls, abandoned personal effects, the occasional body still waiting to be recovered. The air smelled of burnt circuitry and antiseptic, underlaid with the unmistakable copper scent of blood. The mess hall had been transformed into a battlefield hospital. Rows of makeshift pallets held the injured, while exhausted medical staff moved between them, administering what care they could with limited supplies. Dr. Voss, assist their medical team, Mira ordered. Raoul, secure the perimeter and assess structural damage. I'll speak with Administrator Serrano about what happened. In a small office adjacent to the mess hall, Serrano collapsed into a chair, the composure she'd maintained in front of her people finally cracking. It was a normal shift rotation, she began, voice hollow. No warnings. They just appeared at the main airlock. We thought they were a supply ship crew at first. They were human, or looked human. Then they started killing. How many attackers? Mira asked gently. 20, maybe 30, but they fought like hundreds. Serrano's hands trembled. They moved so fast, with such purpose, and their eyes. She shuddered. Empty, but somehow burning. Did they make any demands? Try to communicate? No, they just slaughtered, then left with nothing. Didn't take supplies, equipment, or samples. Nothing. Mira frowned. That doesn't make strategic sense. It wasn't strategy, Serrano whispered. It was ritual. One of them, their leader, I think, kept shouting about awakening the temple and kicking open the door. Said we were all sleeping gods who'd forgotten ourselves. She looked up at Mira, eyes haunted. What does that mean? I don't know, Mira admitted, but we'll find out. Hours later, as the relief convoy from Gaia 9 arrived and began offloading supplies, Mira reconvened with her team in a secured section of the colony's command center. Dr. Voss, what have you learned? Alara's typically composed features showed signs of strain. I've examined both physical injuries and survivor accounts. The physical evidence is straightforward. Weapons were standard mining tools and bare hands. But the psychological impact, she hesitated. Several survivors report experiencing the attacker's emotions. Empathic transmission, Mira asked, surprised. Possibly. Or perhaps a form of psychic contagion. Alara activated her datapad, displaying medical scans. I also found anomalous readings in survivor blood samples. There's a genetic marker activating in response to trauma. Something I've never seen documented before. Jonas leaned forward. While coordinating with the relief convoy, I intercepted fragmented communications, encrypted, but I managed to decode portions. He projected a series of text fragments. They referenced something called the War God's Temple and awakening protocols. And this phrase keeps recurring. Dormant no longer. Raoul, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke. Captain, I need to report something. Disturbing. 3 of my security team experienced violent episodes while securing the colony. Unprovoked aggression, followed by confusion about their actions. A chill settled over the room. Are they contained? Mira asked. Yes. Sedated in our shuttle's med bay. But before sedation, one of them said something similar to the survivor accounts, about feeling awakened. Mira processed this information, unease growing. Dr. Voss, analyze those genetic anomalies immediately. Jonas, trace those communications to their source. Raoul, double security but rotate personnel frequently. If this is some form of contagion, we need to limit exposure. As they dispersed, Mira found herself alone in the command center, studying a star chart of the surrounding systems. Something about this situation nagged at her, a half-remembered history lesson from her academy days about ancient Earth myths of berserkers and battle trances. Captain Solari, Jonas's voice came through her comm. You need to see this. In the communications hub, Jonas had assembled a complex web of intercepted transmissions. I've traced the encrypted communications to a pattern, he explained, eyes bright with discovery and concern. They're not random, they're coordinates, forming a path through several systems. He highlighted a series of points on the display. And they all lead here, Korath. The desert world? Mira frowned. It's uninhabited, too hostile for colonization. Not entirely uninhabited, Jonas corrected, pulling up survey records. There's an archaeological research outpost studying ruins believed to be pre-colonization, possibly even pre-Earth. What kind of ruins? The reports are vague, but they're referred to as the Temple Complex. Mira felt that cold finger of dread again. How long has this outpost been there? 3 years. Regular research rotation. Nothing unusual reported. Jonas hesitated. Until 6 weeks ago, when communications suddenly ceased. Before Mira could respond, her comm chirped urgently. Captain, came Dr. Voss's voice, tight with controlled tension. I need you in the medical lab, immediately. Alara's lab was in lockdown when Mira arrived. Through the transparent barrier, she could see the xenopsychologist working frantically at a genetic sequencer, surrounded by holographic displays of DNA structures. Dr. Voss, report, Mira called through the intercom. Alara looked up, her composure cracked by what could only be described as scientific awe and horror. Captain, I've identified the anomalous genetic marker. It's in all of us. Explain. The marker is dormant in standard human DNA. Has been for millennia, apparently. But under specific stimuli, it activates. She transferred a display to Mira's side of the barrier. I compared it with historical genetic databases. This marker was once active in all humans, specifically during Earth's pre-space warfare periods. Mira studied the complex display. What does it do? It triggers what ancient humans would have called battle rage or berserker state, enhanced strength, suppressed pain receptors, accelerated reflexes, and, most significantly, a neurochemical surge that creates a heightened pack mentality. You're saying humans have a dormant genetic switch for becoming warriors? Mira asked, incredulously. More than that, Alara replied. The historical evidence suggests this was once a dominant trait, selectively suppressed through genetic engineering as humanity expanded to the stars and established itself as peacekeepers. And the attacks at Thera 9 were humans with this gene activated, Alara confirmed. But that's not all. The activation appears to spread, like a contagion, through specific stimulus patterns, possibly auditory, possibly empathic. Mira thought of Raoul's security team experiencing violent episodes. You're saying this could spread through the colony? Through my crew? Potentially. I've isolated myself as a precaution. Alara's eyes were haunted. Captain, there's something else. I'm detecting early signs of activation in my own blood samples. Before Mira could respond, the ship-wide alarm blared. Captain, to the bridge! Jonas's voice cut through, panic evident. We're under attack! Racing to the bridge, Mira found chaos. The main view screen showed a small vessel firing on the relief convoy, while Jonas and the bridge crew worked frantically at their stations. Report, Mira demanded. Unknown vessel appeared from behind the planetoid's moon, Jonas explained rapidly. They've already disabled 2 relief ships. No communication, just immediate attack. Shields up, evasive maneuvers, Mira ordered. Target their weapon systems only. Captain, Raoul interjected from the tactical station, his voice strangely tight. Recommend full offensive response. They're targeting civilians. Mira felt a surge of protective anger but pushed it down. Weapons at minimum. Disable only. The Aegis moved with precision, inserting itself between the attacker and the vulnerable relief ships. The enemy vessel, sleek, unmarked, and clearly designed for combat, adjusted its trajectory, now focusing its attack on the Aegis. Their weapons are military grade, Jonas reported, as the ship shuddered under impact. Shield integrity at 87%. Open a channel, Mira ordered. No response to hails, Jonas replied. Another hit rocked the ship. Shields at 73%, reported the tactical officer. Mira saw Raoul's knuckles whitening on the console edge. Captain, we need to respond with force. Something in his voice made her look sharply at him. His eyes seemed different, harder, with a strange light behind them. Commander, are you feeling all right? She asked carefully. Never better, he replied, and there was an edge to his smile that she'd never seen before. I can feel it now, what we were meant to be. A chill ran through Mira as she remembered Dr. Voss's warning about the spreading activation. Lieutenant Wu, target their propulsion systems. Precision strike only, she ordered, deliberately turning away from Raoul. The Aegis fired, its energy beams lancing out to disable the attacking vessel's engines. The enemy ship rolled, taking the hit on its reinforced hull section instead. Minimal damage, Jonas reported. They're coming around for another pass. Captain, Raoul said, his voice dropping to a dangerous purr. Let me show you how this should be done. Before Mira could stop him, Raoul's hands flew across the tactical console, overriding the weapons protocols. The Aegis's main cannons charged to full power. "Raoul, stand down," Mira ordered, moving toward him. "We are warriors, Captain," he said, not looking up from his work. "Always have been. The Peacemaker facade is just that, a facade." The ship shuddered under another hit. "Shields at 58%, came the report. "See?" Raoul gestured at the view screen. "They understand the truth. Power speaks to power." Mira reached the tactical station and physically pushed Raoul aside, canceling the weapons charge. "Security to the bridge," she called into her comm. Raoul grabbed her arm, his grip painfully tight. "Don't you feel it? The call? The awakening?" Looking into his eyes, Mira saw something ancient and predatory staring back, something that had always been there, perhaps, but dormant until now. The security team arrived, training stun weapons on Raoul. He looked at them, then back at Mira, and slowly released her arm. "You'll understand soon," he said softly. "We all will." As security escorted Raoul from the bridge, Mira returned to the captain's chair, trying to process what had just happened. "Jonas, status of the attacking vessel?" "Still engaged, Captain. They're targeting our propulsion systems now." Mira made a decision. Divert power from non-essential systems to shields and weapons. Target their weapons array precisely. Fire when ready. The Aegis's beams lanced out, striking the enemy ship's forward section with surgical precision. Secondary explosions rippled across its hull. "Direct hit," Jonas reported. "Their weapons are offline." "Hail them again," Mira ordered. Still no response. "Wait." Jonas looked up from his console, surprised. "They're retreating." On the view screen, the damaged vessel pulled away, accelerating toward the outer system. "Track them," Mira ordered. "I want to know where they're going." "Course plotted," Jonas replied after a moment. "They appear to be heading toward Korath." Mira's suspicion crystallized into certainty. The temple. In the hours that followed, Mira ordered a ship-wide medical scan based on Dr. Voss's findings. The results were troubling. Nearly 30% of the crew showed early signs of the genetic activation, including Commander Kendrick, whose condition had progressed further than most. In the quarantine section of sickbay, Mira observed Raoul through the transparent barrier. He paced like a caged animal, occasionally stopping to perform precise combat exercises, with frightening speed and power. "How long has he been like this?" she asked the medical officer. "Since sedation wore off. He refuses to communicate except to say that the awakening is coming, and that the temple door has been kicked open." Dr. Voss joined them, looking pale but composed. "I've managed to slow my own activation through neurosuppressive medication," she explained. "But it's not a permanent solution." "Have you identified the trigger?" Mira asked. "Partially. It appears to be a combination of factors: stress, exposure to others exhibiting symptoms, and possibly some form of subvocal or subsonic communication pattern." "Like a code phrase, a signal?" "More complex. Think of it as a key that unlocks dormant neural pathways." Alara gestured toward Raoul. "The commander was exposed during the security sweep of Thera 9. Others are showing symptoms at various rates." Mira considered this information. "Is there any way to reverse it?" "Unknown. The activation appears progressive, but might be manageable with proper conditioning." Alara hesitated. "Captain, I believe we need to investigate Korath. If this temple is the source of the activation signal." "Agreed." Mira turned to leave. "Prepare a research team. We depart in 6 hours." "Captain," Alara called after her, "there's significant risk that proximity to the temple might accelerate activation in all of us, including you." Mira paused. "Then we'll have to be faster than the awakening." On the bridge, Jonas had compiled all available data on Korath. "Desert world, minimal surface water, high radiation in equatorial regions," he summarized. "The archaeological outpost is located here, in the northern highlands." He highlighted a section of the planetary map. The ruins they're studying extend underground, with what appears to be a central chamber referred to in their reports as the Sanctum. Any information on the temple's origin? Mira asked. The reports suggest human construction, but predating official colonization records. Carbon dating puts it at approximately 2,000 years old. 2,000? Mira frowned. Humanity only achieved interstellar travel 800 years ago. Exactly, Jonas replied. That's partly why the research team was interested. Either the dating is wrong, or humans reached Korath much earlier than our history records, Mira finished. There's something else, Jonas added, pulling up a different file. I've been analyzing the encrypted transmissions. They contain repeated references to the War God's Temple and a group called Children of the War God. I believe we're dealing with a cult, one that somehow discovered this activation gene and is deliberately triggering it. Mira remembered Administrator Serrano's account of the attacker's leader shouting about awakening the temple and kicking open the door. They're not just activating individuals, she realized. They're trying to trigger a mass awakening. But why? Jonas asked. What's the purpose? Power, came a voice from behind them. They turned to find Dr. Voss entering the bridge, her movements carefully controlled. I've been researching historical patterns of warfare. Before the Peacemaker era, humans were feared across explored space for their combat prowess and unpredictable aggression. You're saying this cult wants to return humanity to its warrior past? Mira asked. It's more complex than that, Alara replied. The genetic engineering that suppressed our aggressive tendencies was done gradually, over generations. It was considered necessary for peaceful coexistence with other species and with ourselves. But some historical records suggest resistance to the process. Groups who believed humanity was sacrificing its true nature. The children of the war god, Jonas murmured. Possibly their ideological ancestors, Alara agreed. If they found a way to reverse generations of selective suppression, they could transform humanity from peacekeepers back to warriors, Mira concluded. We need to stop them. The journey to Korath took 3 days, during which Mira ordered strict rotation of duty shifts and regular neurological scans of all personnel. The activation continued to spread, though more slowly under Dr. Voss's treatment protocols. Raoul and the other severely affected crew members remained in quarantine, their condition neither improving nor worsening significantly. Mira herself felt the subtle changes beginning, heightened senses, quicker reflexes, and most disturbingly, occasional flashes of aggression that she had to consciously suppress. She found herself spending off-duty hours in the ship's combat simulation room, her body moving through ancient martial forms she hadn't practiced since academy training with disturbing ease and precision. When they achieved orbit around Korath, the bridge crew stared at the view screen in stunned silence. The desert world's surface was an expanse of rust-red sand and jagged rock formations, broken only by the occasional gleam of artificial structures, and a massive formation that stood out even from orbit. Magnify section Gamma 6, Mira ordered. The image zoomed in on what appeared to be a sprawling complex built into the side of a mountain range. Its architecture was unlike anything in current human design, angular and imposing, with towers that seemed designed for both defense and observation. The temple, Jonas whispered. Life signs? Mira asked. Multiple readings concentrated in the temple complex, the sensor operator reported. Approximately 60 individuals. And... He hesitated, rechecking his instruments. There's an energy signature emanating from the central chamber. Unidentified type, but powerful. Any sign of the vessel that attacked us at Thera 9? Yes, Captain. Docked at what appears to be a landing pad near the main structure. Mira made her decision. Prepare a shuttle. Jonas, Dr. Voss, you're with me. We'll take a security team. Volunteers only, and only those showing minimal activation symptoms. Captain, Jonas began hesitantly, Given the risk of accelerated activation, perhaps you should remain on the Aegis while a secondary team. This is my responsibility, Lieutenant. Mira cut him off gently. Besides, I need to see this temple for myself. The shuttle's descent through Korath's atmosphere was turbulent, buffeted by dust storms that reduced visibility to near zero at times. As they approached the landing coordinates, the temple loomed through the haze, a massive structure of dark stone, its entrance flanked by towering statues weathered by centuries of sand and wind. Those statues, Dr. Voss murmured, studying them through the viewport. They appear to be warriors in combat stances. The war gods, Jonas suggested. Mira felt an unexpected resonance looking at the ancient figures, as if something deep within her recognized them. She pushed the sensation aside, focusing on the mission. We'll approach cautiously. Priority is information gathering, not confrontation. If we encounter cult members, we attempt communication first. The shuttle landed on a flat area, approximately half a kilometer from the main entrance. As the team disembarked, the full impact of Korath hit them. Searing heat, thin air that tasted of metal and dust, and an eerie silence broken only by the constant whisper of wind-driven sand. They advanced toward the temple in formation, environmental suits protecting them from the harsh conditions. As they drew closer, details of the massive entrance became clear. Intricate carvings covered the stone, depicting scenes of battle and what appeared to be ritual combat. These inscriptions, Dr. Voss said, scanning the symbols with her datapad. They're in an archaic form of Earth Standard. I can partially translate. What do they say? Mira asked, feeling a strange reluctance to know the answer. Here lie the memories of what we were. Alara read slowly. Guardians of the battle wisdom, keepers of the warrior's path. When peace grows weak, kick open the door. A chill ran through the team despite the desert heat. Someone's coming, one of the security officers warned, raising his stun weapon. From the shadows of the temple entrance, figures emerged, humans in simple, dust-colored garments. They carried no visible weapons, but moved with the confident grace of trained fighters. Lower your weapons, Mira ordered her team, stepping forward. I am Captain Mira Solari of the Federation starship Aegis. We come seeking information about the attacks on Thera 9. The foremost figure, a woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that seemed to burn with inner light, smiled without warmth. We've been expecting you, Captain, she said. The temple foretold your coming. I am Eris, first awakened of the children of the war god. You're responsible for the massacre, Mira stated, fighting to keep her voice level as anger surged unexpectedly. Not a massacre, Eris corrected. A necessary sacrifice to begin the awakening. The blood of the first victims opens the path for all. Dr. Voss stepped forward. You're deliberately activating a dormant genetic trait, triggering aggression and combat reflexes in ordinary people. Eris's smile widened. Not triggering something foreign. Doctor. Removing the chains from something intrinsic. Humanity's true nature. You murdered hundreds of innocent people, Mira said, her hand unconsciously moving toward her weapon. There are no innocents in awakening, Eris replied calmly. Only those who embrace their warrior heritage, and those who resist it. She studied Mira with keen interest. I can see it in you already, Captain. The dormant god stirring. Mira forced her hand away from her weapon. We came for answers, not philosophy. What exactly are you trying to achieve? Come. Eris gestured toward the temple entrance. See for yourself what humanity has forgotten. It was clearly a trap, but also their only path to understanding. Mira nodded to her team, and they followed Eris and her followers into the darkness of the temple. Inside, the temperature dropped dramatically. Lights activated automatically as they walked, illuminating corridors carved directly into the mountain stone. The walls continued the intricate carvings seen outside, battle scenes interspersed with what appeared to be scientific diagrams of the human brain and nervous system. This facility was constructed during the early exodus from Earth, Eris explained as they walked. When humanity first encountered other species and began the process of pacification. You mean when we chose peace over conquest, Mira corrected. When we chose weakness over strength, Eris countered. When we began engineering the warrior out of ourselves to appease those who feared us. They descended deeper, the corridor opening into a vast chamber filled with ancient technology, preservation pods, genetic sequencers, and equipment Mira couldn't identify. The first generation knew what would be lost, Eris continued. They preserved the original genetic templates here, along with the activation protocols. For 2,000 years, this temple has waited for those who remembered its purpose. And that purpose is to return humanity to a state of warfare, Dr. Voss asked. To return humanity to wholeness, Eris corrected. The pacification program left us, half-formed, diplomats without the strength to enforce peace, mediators without the power to protect what we value. They reached the center of the complex, a circular chamber dominated by a device that pulsed with energy. It resembled a beacon or transmitter, but constructed with technology that seemed both ancient and advanced beyond current standards. The heart of the temple, Eris said reverently. The war god's door. For centuries, it waited for someone to awaken it, to kick it open. You've activated it, Mira realized. That's what's causing the genetic triggers to spread. Yes, the initial activation required sacrifice, blood ritual to prime the system. But now it broadcasts continuously, reaching further with each passing day. Jonas studied the device with horrified fascination. It's a transmitter, operating on a subspace frequency that directly interfaces with human neural patterns. Clever boy, Eris smiled. The frequency penetrates shielding, travels through space. Eventually, it will reach every human in every corner of explored space. And turn them into killers, Mira said. Into warriors, Eris corrected again. Into what we were always meant to be. Protectors, guardians, the strong hand behind the gentle word. Mira looked around the chamber, noting the positions of Eris's followers and calculating odds. And you decided this for everyone, without consent? Did anyone ask consent when they began engineering it out of us? Eris countered. The pacification was gradual, hidden beneath public health initiatives and genetic optimization programs. Few understood what was being stolen from them. A comm signal from the Aegis interrupted the conversation. Captain, came the first officer's strained voice. We're detecting a power surge from the temple. And multiple ships have entered the system. They're not responding to hails. Eris smiled. More of our awakened brothers and sisters, coming to protect the temple. You see, Captain, you're too late. The door is open. The war gods are awakening. Mira felt it then. A pressure at the base of her skull. A sudden clarity and focus that made every sense sharpen. Her muscles tensed, combat training surfacing from deep memory. Around her, she saw her team experiencing similar effects. Backs straightening, stances shifting unconsciously to fighting positions. What have you done? She demanded, her voice dropping to a dangerous register she barely recognized. Nothing you can stop, Eris replied. The question now, Captain Solari, is whether you will fight the awakening or embrace it. With sudden, fluid motion, Eris's followers produced weapons, a combination of modern energy weapons and ancient-looking bladed implements. You have a choice, Eris continued. Join us in awakening humanity to its full potential, or die still clinging to the lie of the perfect peacemaker. The pressure in Mira's mind intensified. Images flashed through her consciousness. Ancient battles, the exhilaration of combat, the fierce joy of victory. Her hands itched for a weapon, her body humming with readiness. Dr. Voss staggered beside her, clutching her head. Captain, she gasped. The activation is accelerating. The temple. It's amplifying the effect. Jonas, his face strained with effort, managed to check his datapad. The transmission is strengthening. It's being broadcast to the entire system. Mira fought through the haze of awakening aggression, forcing clarity. We need to disable the transmitter. You would deny humanity its birthright, Eris challenged. Its true nature. I would deny you the right to make that choice for billions, Mira countered, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. Eris sighed. Then you choose the hard path. She nodded to her followers. Take them. The cultists moved with frightening speed and coordination, converging on Mira's team. The security officers raised their weapons, but Mira could see in their eyes the same battle she was fighting, the struggle between training and the surging tide of combat instinct. Defend yourselves, she ordered, but hold your positions. The first cultist reached her, blade flashing. Mira's body responded before her conscious mind could direct it. A fluid sidestep, followed by a precise strike to the attacker's wrist. The blade clattered to the stone floor. Around her, chaos erupted. Her security team engaged the cultists, the sound of energy weapons and physical combat echoing through the chamber. Dr. Voss had taken cover behind ancient equipment, frantically working her datapad, while Jonas attempted to reach the central transmitter. Mira found herself moving with impossible speed and precision, countering attacks from multiple directions. Part of her was horrified at the violence, but another part, a part that felt increasingly natural, reveled in the pure efficiency of combat. You see, Eris called to her above the fray, this is what you were meant to be. This is humanity's true face. A cultist charged Mira with a spear-like weapon. She deflected it with one arm while delivering a devastating kick to his midsection, sending him sprawling. No, Mira managed through gritted teeth. This is just one face. We contain multitudes. Across the chamber, Jonas had reached the transmitter, but was surrounded by cultists. Mira fought her way toward him, aware that Dr. Voss had disappeared from her position. Captain, Jonas called, desperation in his voice. I can't shut it down without the control codes. Mira reached him, standing back to back as they faced the closing circle of cultists. Keep them off me, she ordered. I'll handle the transmitter. She examined the ancient device, recognizing elements of its design from historical databases. The control interface was surprisingly familiar, based on neural response technology that had fallen out of use centuries ago. Direct mental interface, she realized. It's keyed to respond to the activated state, which means you can control it, came Eris's voice as she approached through the fighting. If you embrace what you're becoming. Mira looked up at the cult leader, seeing the fanatical light in her eyes. That's what this is really about, isn't it? Not just awakening humanity, but controlling the awakened. Eris smiled thinly. Leadership requires vision. I have seen what humanity could be. No, Mira countered. You've seen only one possibility, one path. With deliberate focus, Mira placed her hands on the transmitter's interface panels. Immediately, she felt the device connecting with her mind, reading the activated neural patterns and responding to them. But instead of surrendering to the rage and combat focus, she channeled something else, the discipline and restraint that had defined her career as a peacemaker. The transmitter pulsed, its energy pattern changing. What are you doing? Eris demanded, alarm replacing confidence. Changing the message, Mira replied through clenched teeth. The combat around them faltered as cultists clutched their heads, disoriented by the shifting signal. Mira maintained her focus, pushing back against the temple's awakening protocol with everything she had learned about peace and self-control. You can't erase what we are, Eris hissed, reaching for Mira. I'm not trying to, Mira answered. I'm reminding us that we're more than just warriors. The transmitter's pulse changed again, the harsh red light softening to amber. Throughout the chamber, cultists and security team members alike lowered their weapons, confusion replacing battle fury. From the shadows of the chamber's periphery, Dr. Voss emerged, carrying what appeared to be an ancient device, salvaged from elsewhere in the temple. "Sonic dampener," she explained, activating it. "Designed to modulate the temple's output. I found it in what appears to be a control room. They built fail-safes into this system." The combination of Mira's mental interface and the dampener created a wave of calming energy that spread through the chamber. The awakening didn't reverse, but its more violent aspects subsided, leaving enhanced awareness and strength without the killing rage. "What have you done?" Eris demanded, though her voice had lost its commanding edge. "Balance," Mira answered simply. "What your ancestors actually intended." She gestured to the wall carvings, which depicted not just warfare, but protection, guardianship, and the defense of peace. They didn't preserve this to create berserkers. They preserved it to ensure that if humanity ever needed its strength again, it would be available, but controlled. Eris stared at the carvings, seeing them with new eyes, as the balanced signal clarified her perception. "The guardian aspect," she murmured. "Not just war, protection." "We forgot half our nature through genetic engineering," Mira agreed. "But you were forgetting the other half through your awakening ritual." With the immediate threat contained, Mira ordered her team to secure the temple and treat the injured, both their own and the cultists. The ships that had entered the system were indeed filled with partially awakened followers. But without Eris's leadership and under the influence of the modified temple signal, they responded to Mira's authority. Hours later, as Federation reinforcements arrived to help manage the situation, Mira stood with Dr. Voss and Jonas at the temple entrance, watching the twin moons of Korath rise over the desert. "The genetic activation can't be reversed," Alara explained, reviewing her findings. "But it can be managed. With the modified signal and proper training, the awakened retain the enhanced capabilities without the battle fury." "So humanity just changed?" Jonas asked. "Permanently." "We've been changing since we first reached the stars," Mira replied. "This is just another evolution. The Galactic Council will have concerns." Alara noted. "Humans with enhanced strength, reflexes, and pack coordination. It will change how other species perceive us. Then, we'll need to show them that we can be both warriors and peacekeepers," Mira said. "That strength can serve protection rather than conquest." She looked back at the temple, at the ancient war god standing sentinel at its entrance, and felt a new understanding of what they represented. Not bloodlust or conquest, but the capacity to defend what mattered when peace alone wasn't enough. "Set course for Earth," she ordered as they returned to the shuttle. "The Council needs to understand what's happened and what's coming." "And Commander Kendrick?" Jonas asked. "The other affected crew?" "We bring them home," Mira said firmly. "They're still our people, just awakened to a part of themselves they didn't know existed. We'll learn this new balance together." As the Aegis broke orbit from Korath, carrying news that would forever change humanity's understanding of itself, Mira stood at the viewport, watching the desert world recede. The war god within her no longer raged for battle, but stood vigilant, a guardian rather than a berserker. The temple door had indeed been kicked open, but what emerged was not just ancient fury, but forgotten wholeness. Humanity, reclaiming both its capacity for peace and its ability to defend it when necessary. The dormant gods had awakened, but they would serve rather than rule. The stars stretched before them like diamond dust as the Aegis accelerated toward Earth, carrying both a warning and a promise that humans could be more than they had allowed themselves to become, without surrendering what they had worked so hard to achieve. Balance, Mira thought. Not just war, not just peace, but the wisdom to know when each was needed. Perhaps that had been the true gift of the temple all along.